Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. You know, today we're tackling a question I'm sure has crossed all our minds at some point. Is it better to burn the midnight oil or be up with the sun when it comes to getting things done?
Definitely a classic conundrum.
It really is. And a listener actually sent in this super interesting article that dives into, the pros and cons of each approach. So that's exactly what we're going to be unpacking in this deep dive.
Sounds good. We've got that source right here.
Yeah.
And our goal today is really to get to the heart of what makes each of those schedules tick, for different people.
Right.
So we're going to pull out the key insights to help you figure out, which approach might actually be the best fit for your rhythm and your lifestyle.
Awesome. So let's kick things off by looking at the night owls among us.
Okay.
The article you shared talks about this, like almost this feeling of amplified focus and even like a surge in creativity that often kicks in, after the sun sets and the world kind of quiets down.
Mhm.
Have you ever experienced that kind of shift in energy in the stillness of the night?
Oh, absolutely. What's really interesting here is how that decrease in, just the bustle around us can really allow our minds to zero in on things.
Hmm.
The source even mentions, fewer interruptions, like no phone calls, the quieting of traffic, just a more peaceful backdrop. And that can be so powerful for, tasks that require deep thought or a creative spark.
Totally.
Interestingly, there's even some research that suggests the slight increase in melatonin at night, while it's preparing us for sleep, can actually paradoxically enhance focus on certain tasks, especially when those external distractions are minimal. And it's different from that sort of more broad alertness we might experience during the day.
That's so fascinating about melatonin because I know, like, for me personally, trying to write something during the day when there's so much going on around me, it feels like I'm constantly having to, push back against all these distractions.
You're right.
But the article also brings up, it doesn't shy away from the potential downsides of being a night owl,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to our health and how that impacts the next day.
Yeah, this is a big one. If working late consistently starts to become your normal routine, the natural consequence is often struggling to wake up early and feel refreshed.
Right.
And as the source points out, this can so easily become this pattern of just not getting enough sleep overall.
And, let's be honest, nobody is functioning at their best when they're constantly sleep deprived.
Totally.
That feeling of being tired and unproductive that the article mentions, I think we've all been there at some point. And it makes you wonder if that initial boost of focus at night really outweighs, the grogginess and the lack of sharpness the following day. Have you seen that trade-off play out a lot in your work?
Oh, it's incredibly common. And if we think about it, in the bigger picture, ongoing sleep deprivation has all sorts of negative effects on our physical and mental health. So yeah, those late night hours might feel productive in the moment, but it's really important to consider the long-term impact, especially if it consistently cuts into your sleep.
Absolutely. So that kind of paints a picture of the nighttime work scenario. Now let's flip the script and look at the benefits of being an early riser.
Okay.
The article highlights this idea of a fresh start that comes with waking up before the day really takes off. It does sound kind of appealing, doesn't it?
It does. There's a real psychological advantage to waking up before you know all the demands of the day hit you. And the source describes this beautifully, having time for a peaceful morning, maybe enjoying a healthy breakfast without rushing, and being able to really plan your day. That feeling of control and preparation can be so valuable.
For sure. And it also mentions that there's some evidence that early risers tend to be more productive and have more energy throughout the day.
Mm.
And that seems to be like the prevailing wisdom out there. Does that match up with what you've seen in your research?
There's definitely data that suggests a correlation. It might be related to our circadian rhythms. Think of that as your body's internal clock that regulates your sleep-wake cycles and influences things like, hormone release and body temperature. These rhythms can be a bit different from person to person, which contributes to, whether we're naturally more of a morning person or an evening person. Early exposure to sunlight can also help reinforce those rhythms and maybe even contribute to feeling more alert and energetic during the day.
Makes sense. But yeah, as the article points out, the biggest hurdle for a lot of us when it comes to being an early bird is actually going to sleep early.
Right.
And for some people, that feels like, they're fighting their very nature.
It really does. This is where the idea of chronotypes comes in, basically. Whether you're naturally wired to be more of a morning person or an evening person. And, trying to force yourself into an early morning routine when your body naturally wants to stay up later can be just as problematic as consistently staying up too late.
Right.
I remember working with a researcher who swore by his late night coding sessions. He said it was the only time he could really get in the zone. But he also admitted that, he relied heavily on caffeine and struggled with those early morning meetings.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we've explored both sides. We've
Mhm.
looked at working late and waking up early. But the big question, and the one that the article asks directly, is which one is better?
And the really insightful conclusion of the article is that there is no one-size-fits-all answer.
Yeah.
It truly depends on your lifestyle and what you personally prefer.
Exactly.
What's so interesting here is the emphasis on self-awareness.
Yeah, the article makes it clear that if you genuinely feel more focused, more creative, more in the zone during those late night hours, then, working late might be the best choice for you.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, if you thrive on getting up early, you love that quiet morning routine, and you feel like you have more energy in the earlier part of the day, then embracing the early bird schedule totally makes sense.
For sure.
Yeah.
But, throughout this whole discussion, the source keeps coming back to one crucial element. It's really the foundation for productivity and well-being, regardless of, what schedule you prefer.
Yes, and that's getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
It's so important. Whether you're a night owl or an early bird, consistently prioritizing enough sleep is non-negotiable.
Mm.
Without it, any potential benefits of your chosen schedule are going to be, seriously reduced.
So it's not about sticking to one or the other just because it sounds good or because you think you should be a certain way.
Right.
It's about finding that rhythm that works for you and allows you to get the rest you need to really be at your best.
That's the key message, finding a routine that works for you personally, rather than trying to fit into a mold that doesn't suit you.
And I love how the article ends with a question for the listener. What about you? Are you a night owl or an early bird? It encourages you to think about your own tendencies based on everything we've just talked about.
It is. It's a great prompt for self-reflection. Think about those times when you feel most sharp, most creative, most energized. Do those moments tend to happen late in the evening or early in the morning?
So to sum up our deep dive today, the big takeaway is that there's no universally better time to work. The best option truly depends on you, on understanding your productivity patterns, your lifestyle, all of that.
Exactly. And never forget the crucial role of enough sleep. It doesn't matter when you choose to work. Prioritizing rest is essential for maintaining energy, focus, and your overall health.
And here's a final thought for you all to chew on. Pay attention to your energy levels throughout the day this week. See how well you can focus, and just notice your overall well-being. And maybe even experiment with shifting your sleep schedule a little bit, even just by an hour. What do you discover about your own natural rhythms? That's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.